Oh, it's been one of those days. There's so much to do and it's just one of those days. Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Summer Meyers. I am a homeschooling mom of 5 kids, and today I wanted to talk about how long you should be homeschooling your kids. This is kind of a question that comes up when you are new to homeschooling. So if you have been doing this for a while, you're probably like, I got this, I know how it works. But for those of us who just jumped into it, I remember when I first started, I was like, I don't even know how long this should be taking, how long of my day should be dedicated to schooling my kids. And you might be surprised by the answer to that. Homeschooling is one of those things that is a personal preference all the way. No homeschool family homeschools the same. Every home that you go into, they're going to be doing it differently than the next family over. It's just the cost of doing business. So, if you are looking at somebody's homeschool and you're like, I'm going to copy exactly what they are doing, I mean, you can, but it's not going to come out the same way. It's going to be different. So that's why it's so important to talk, to research, to listen, to reach out in your local community, to figure out what others are doing so that you feel more comfortable and confident when you are approaching your own home. I had this huge time where I was just spending so much time researching and just going full throttle on it. And then by the time that we had been doing, by the time this year rolled around, so we just completed our 3rd year, I have relaxed so much. And it's not as stringent, it's not as rigid as it was in the beginning. And that only means that we have gotten more comfortable in ourselves and we have found a routine to move things along, and it's going good. It's like all good. We've got this. So eventually you will get there, and you don't need to stress about getting there tomorrow. It's going to happen. You got to see this as a long distance run. It's not something that's just going to happen overnight. It's something you have to practice. It's something you have to work for. It's not something that's just super easy. So the first thing to look at when you are trying to figure out how long should you be schooling your child per day is you determine which subjects you're going to be doing, how often you're going to be doing them, and how long each of those subjects are going to take. Bearing in mind that the more often you do them, the faster the pickup will be. So initially, it's going to take you an hour to do a lesson in the beginning. By the time that, a couple months have rolled around, that's going to be halved. It's not going to take quite that long. You're going to have found a routine to build into that. Typically, in the beginning of each curriculum, they will say, please dedicate X amount of time for this lesson, this part, or whatever. So pull out your curriculums and look up exactly what the curriculum is suggesting the amount of time to dedicate to, and then organize yourself accordingly, knowing that eventually that number is gonna shrink. It's not gonna stay that long. The next thing to do is to look at your age of your child. For kindergartners, young elementary schools, I would say no longer than an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. As you're moving up, you can add an extra half hour for each grade level or maturity level that they're going up. So by the time you're reaching into middle school, like 6 to 8th grade, which would be like 12 to about 14, I would say 3.5 hours. And then into high school, it should be like 4 to 6 hours. Like you're expecting them to study a little bit more rigorously by the time they reached up to those higher grade levels. Also, partly because their work is concentrated and they are able to sit and focus a little bit more and falling down into rabbit holes and really researching and going in depth, which requires more hour work. And that'll fluctuate too from day to day. Don't expect to, my kindergartner is 5, we have 2 hours of schoolwork and we're going to do 2 hours every day. Some days you're only going to do an hour. Some days it's going to be pushing it into the 3-hour mark. And sometimes you're doing it in 20-minute segments. And by the end of the day, you realize, oh my gosh, we did like 5 hours of school today by accident because we were just breaking it up into all these things. Give yourself room to manipulate that amount of time. So if you've got a child who is super disciplined, they can sit still and look at their worksheets, send them to my house because I want to do that. If you have a child who is super disciplined and they can sit and focus on a task without you hammering at them next to them or whatever, then yeah, go ahead and try to get all that schooling done. Just get it done in, 2 hours or whatever. But if they need to be able to move and jump up, they're easily distracted, they need to get some kind of physical exercise between subjects, plan on that accordingly. Okay, this is future me. I just am hopping in here really quick. I'm editing this video, and I realized that I didn't make a caveat here that when you are homeschooling, you're doing a lot of one-on-one work, and so that is why you can get so much done in an hour. When you are, going to school and you're teaching 30 plus kids, you can't, it takes longer to reach that many brains. But when you are working one-on-one with somebody, then it's a lot faster and quicker. And that's why it only takes X amount of time. It only takes about 1 or 2 hours to complete quite a few subjects. You get a lot of extra work done for that reason. Okay, back to the video. So another thing to consider when you're thinking about how long your kid should be homeschooling and doing actual schoolwork, think about their maturity level, and it's going to be different. So my kids have matured differently. Each time we've reached a certain grade level, I'm like, oh, I can expect this from you. And I'm like, oh, wait, no, you're a completely different person. I can't expect that same amount of discipline, or I can't expect the same amount of work or whatever, because you are your own being, your own creature. And I should tailor it to you, not tailoring it to, this unseen expectation that we have as a society. My homeschool curriculum is based on you as a person. So I'm going to meet you where you are. When I look at my child, I say, okay, I know that they are a kinesthetic learner, that they need to move, they need to jump around, they need to feel, they need to sniff, they need to taste, they need to do it all. And that takes X amount of time to complete. My child here is actually an audio learner. So she can't just sit and read a book by herself and go at her own pace. She has to listen to it. So an audiobook is going to take X amount of time to listen for her to get through. Or my child is a visual learner, and so all they need to do is see it and they understand it, and we go through it like that. It is so quick and so fast. So think about where your child is at and how they learn, and how that is going to equal out into your curriculum choices. And hopefully the curriculum choices you have picked out equal into what kind of a learner they are. So now you've got a rough estimate based on your curriculum, based on their age, of how much time they should be spending on their homeschool. So I just want to put out here that we are done with homeschool by lunchtime. Sometimes we have lunch at 1 o'clock. Sometimes it's been pushed out. Some days we have school in the afternoon and it ends at dinner time. But typically we start school at about 8:30, 8 o'clock, and then we are done by the time it's time to eat lunch. And I am going between each kid, kind of bouncing between them like a pinball machine while they're focusing on their own work. Sometimes that works really well during the day, and sometimes they have more in-depth lessons that need more of my attention. And so I'm trying to be fluid around that. So when you're trying to decide how long should I be homeschooling my kid, think of it this way: how long do you want to spend homeschooling your kid? If you don't have to work, if you are like, I am in this 100%, you could school all day. Girlfriend, go school all day if you want to. For me personally, I need my afternoons to clean my house. I need my afternoons to recharge, read my books that I have to read, and just get things done. I've also met parents who work during the day and homeschool, which is absolutely a thing. And if that is something that your household does, then think, okay, well, I get off work at 4:30, 5 o'clock, and so this is the amount of time I can homeschool. And we're going to hit our books hard over the weekend, and then in the evening, we're going to do light school work throughout the week. So pick your time slot. You can make this as easy or as difficult as you want it to be. I tend to go on the easy route. These ideas and suggestions are just that. They're just suggestions to give you a feeling of security when you're planning out how long you should be schooling within your day. That being said, I do not, so I have 4 kids who I'm currently homeschooling. I have a preschooler, a soon-to-be 2nd grader, a soon-to-be 4th grader, soon-to-be 6th grader. It's the end of the year. We're all aging up, right? And I do not spend, let's see, so a half hour. So it's like 7 hours of school. I don't spend that much time with them schooling them. Give yourself room to be like, this is a ballpark number, and this is how long my day is going to be focused on this. So even though I expect my soon-to-be 6th grader to be spending 2.5 hours of school, almost maybe 3, it's a little arbitrary. Even though I expect her to be doing that much time of schooling, that's not me sitting next to her doing that much schooling. That is her sitting at her schoolwork doing that much. So I know based on my day that I have, 15 minutes of introducing stuff to her, and then she is expected to do a lot of that independently as well. So consider that as you're thinking about how long your kid should be schooling. You yourself may be sitting next to them based on their age, but don't expect them to be able to sit still and just work on it hard next to you the entire time. And don't feel strapped to them like a ball and chain and that you have to sit there and do it with them for that incomplete amount of time too. You should be able to maneuver between multiple children. Something to consider, check out my video about scheduling. I've linked it down below. I go through exactly how I break down and how I manipulate my kids' schedule so it works for our family. It's just an easy reference video. So if you haven't watched that, check that out down below. All right, so that is it for me today. I hope that video was helpful. If it was, like, subscribe down below, and we will see you next time. I don't know why I'm all of a sudden Italian. I don't know how that happened. Hey, what you doing? What you doing? Yeah. Just say hi to camera. Go say subscribe. Oh, yeah. Okay, let's go take care of that.